Hey guys, thanks for listening to Kinda Dating, the comedy dating podcast where influential guests and I break down the dating world and try to figure out why the do we all have commitment issues. Today's topic is love blind? I don't know. Let's find out. Hey friends, I'm Natasha Chandel. You're listening to Kinda Dating. Aisha's not here today because she is partying it up at Coachella. She's living her best life. So I hope she's having fun and getting real turned. So it's just me, but we're going to have a great time. Remember, if you like what you hear, screenshot the episode and tag us and tell us what you thought of it. Also, we survive from word of mouth. We really need you to tell your friends and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get it. Also, if you haven't already, why have you not left us a 5-star rating or review? I ask all the time, and I always appreciate all your DMs to me. But you know what really helps is if you just do it on the apps. So please do it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts because it really helps us in the charts and moving on up and all these things because, you know, there's a lot of competition out there. So help a sister out. We're also on social media. Follow us. We're at Kinda Dating across the board. I'm at Natasha Chandel on Instagram and Facebook and Natasha.Chandel on TikTok. Okay, guys. So you have seen, you know, that reality show where strangers fall in love sight unseen and decide if their connection is strong enough when they actually meet in real life. Will looks come into play? Finances? Families? It's been kind of a powerful social experiment that's got us all wondering, is love blind? So to help us answer this question is actor, comedian, creator of multiple shows, actually, and the host of multiple live shows, including this amazing live dating show, Love Isn't Blind. Welcome, Alison Goldberg.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you?
I'm great.
Before we even get into that, we have to ask every guest, single or in a relationship?
Very single.
Okay.
Yes.
Has it been a minute or recent or?
No, it's a complicated question. I was actually, I feel like this is a typical story. I was like really enjoying being single, finally, like really enjoying it. And for months, just had a lot of really fun work things and was just really enjoying working. Then I met a guy and I got excited and I think I got love bombed.
We're such slaves to the dick.
Oh my God. Honestly, his dick wasn't even that good. Let's focus on that.
That's the worst.
I feel a little bad that I just said that out loud. And then I also
okay.
sort of hope he hears this. I don't know.
Him if he broke your heart. No.
I don't think he's a bad guy, but I think he has some issues perhaps. But anyways, that ended 2 weeks ago. So I'm trying to
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was very short. I got love bombed. Like week 2, he was like, I canceled all my other dates. Like he was in it to win it, calling me every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And then literally invited me to Cabo one weekend and the next weekend said, I just don't feel that excited to see you. And I feel like I should be more excited to see you. And you deserve someone who's excited to see you. And I was like, yeah, I do. Because here's the thing. I have self-esteem. Like he wanted to talk about it.
God.
And I was like, if you're not feeling what you want to be feeling, regardless of whether I think I was love bombed or this is crazy to flip-flop, all of that. If you're not feeling what you want to be feeling, I actually love myself. And I'm not going to sit here and try to convince someone to feel something they're not feeling. And I'm not going to try to convince you to stick around because I think I'm fantastic and I got to go. So I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, that's actually really, that's how I am. That's why I felt like very connected to you. We got connected through our friend, my best friend, Adam Sussman, who's also been on the podcast before. And
shout out, wrote me the nicest rejection letter I've ever received. And I mean that completely, wholeheartedly, and sincerely.
I actually told him.
So kind. I was like, I can't even be upset about this because it's so nice.
and she's talking, guys, about a work rejection thing, not a
no. I think he
romantic
is not.
one.
I think he is gay. Is this true? Should I not be outing
with a
people on
partner.
the, okay.
Yeah, he has a partner.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So a work rejection. Oh, sorry.
That's
For those
okay.
of you who are listening, you probably want to edit that out. I just hit the table. Oh yeah, so kind.
But we met through that, and you know, we have a lot of similar kind of points of view of things.
Yeah.
And so he thought that you would be a great person to be on the show. And one thing I also agree with is that I do not try to convince anybody to be with me. And I was like that when I was very young. The 2 times I've ever been broken up with, one, I was with a guy for 2.5 years. I was 21, he was 27, and I fought my whole family for him. They were like, "What are you doing with this guy?" And I fought him, and then he wanted to end things, which I found out was because he was cheating on me. But I remember the conversation, and I remember being very young, thinking, "I'm not going to try to convince you to be with me. Like, how would I feel in this relationship knowing I just begged you to stay?"
Yeah, and
like,
I would never
if you're
feel
not
secure, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Always feel anxious. It's not, and I do deserve someone who's excited to see me. And frankly, I think I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. And then I dated somebody who, you are very exciting, actually.
Thank you.
And then I dated this guy a few years ago who I call on the podcast the 28-year-old because he was very young. And he suddenly, after 5.5 months of totally dating, and we were like in it, I met his mom, like I thought we were like good, was like, "Oh, what if I want an open relationship?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Do you?" He goes, "No, but what if I do?" And I was
What
like,
is that?
I'm like, there's a lot of what ifs in life, but and then he was like, "Well, what if I want to go for lunch with a female friend?" And I said, "So go for lunch with the female friend?"
Yeah.
I don't understand what we're talking about. And then I was like, I trust you to
Is he waiting
know
for you to be
what
jealous and then he's gonna accept that you're not?
basically. And then at the end, I was just like, "Listen, if you're feeling like that, like maybe you should focus on figuring that feeling out rather than."
This is exactly what I was going to say. I feel like, okay, I don't want to say #not all men, but I feel like, and look, what I'm about to say, I think is men are also victims of the patriarchy, okay? Men do not process their emotions.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's also what I think happened with this situation that just happened. I thought it was so cute that he had no filter, but in retrospect, he was verbally vomiting what he felt in that moment, right? And it's like, go on your own time, process your emotions. What are you saying? Are you jealous? Do you want me to be jealous? What is happening here? Do you want an open? Process this shit on your own time before you come to me.
Come with like what are you actually trying to get out of this conversation?
What are you asking for?
Yeah, because it is that.
Gosh.
Like we've talked about it a lot in the podcast on word vomiting, because guys tend to word vomit, and women often feel like, I've never taken a guy seriously in like the first couple months because they literally don't know what they're saying.
That is a great lesson that I should take to heart, because this guy really made me feel like it was going somewhere.
And that's the problem. It's not because they don't mean it. It's just they literally live in the present. So they're like, this is how
jealous,
I feel.
Right? Like they don't even need to meditate. They're like already, they're just living in the moment.
But
it's not appropriate.
But it's not, they're not using judgment. No. And that's the problem, right? That's the mistake about what people say about living in the present. No, you doesn't mean living in the present mean you don't use critical thinking.
Right. And you need to not abuse women's emotions, because it's like, that guy, I just want him to know what whiplash it was that he invited me to Cabo one weekend and broke up with me the next. Like that's not appropriate.
And the truth is, process. They know that too. Like guys have had shit happen to them with girls. So it's not, but I honestly don't think most men are trying to be manipulative. Like, I really think that they do not use their judgment. And women... No,
I don't think he's a bad guy, which is almost making it harder, right?
Yeah.
I've dated men who I think are maybe not good guys, and it's actually very easy to get over those. It's the ones where I'm like, oh, I just think you need like more therapy.
Yes, that's exactly it. Emotional intelligence of like... But women, we know that there's a repercussion to everything we say and do.
Yes.
Why? Let's just go down to complete safety.
Yeah.
Right? Women, since we are kids, know, hey, you can't talk to a strange man because he might kidnap you.
Right.
You can't.
Oh, I'm a twin and I had a curfew and my twin brother didn't.
Yeah.
So you learn from a very young age that there is having a twin brother really is a mind-boggling thing.
Are you guys not identical, right?
I'm so glad you corrected yourself, because people ask me that all the time and I'm like, oh, now we can't be friends. But,
I was like, not possible.
No, that was beautiful. But yeah, so I had what I think is like the realist example of that. Because it's like when my older brother was allowed to do stuff I wasn't, well, he was older. But my twin brother, where all the other factors were the same, was allowed to do stuff that I wasn't. So women are taught from birth that you have to be more careful, and it's different for you. I remember them even telling me like, it's different about him having a curfew because he's not going to get raped.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
Well, that's exactly, and we know that everything we say could have a bigger consequence, right? So we think about it. If we're not always just trying to fuck everybody, even though I did, but
I would like to.
But I mean, it was because we're always worried about getting pregnant.
Yeah,
like we have clear consequences, and guys don't.
The number of men who still try to throw it in without a condom is crazy to me. Because also I'm like, you don't know. And then I extrapolate out, like any dude who does this, I'm like, oh, I'm like, there's no way he makes good decisions. Like, because let's be honest, like people pretty quickly, right? I'm like, you don't know me. Also, I could be trying to get knocked up. You don't know. Oh my God, there's that joke about how you said the woman responds, oh, I've been wanting to be a mom. Suddenly he finds a fucking condom.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? In New York also, I went through a bunch of those when I was young where guys kind of pressured me a little bit without a condom because you didn't have any. And they were like, I don't have it on me. I didn't think this was going to happen.
Meanwhile, I know men who have unwanted babies because they didn't bag it up.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. But you're young. I didn't know then. And then very quickly I learned, I was like, oh, I got to keep condoms on me for them. So this way,
if they don't have one, I'm out.
Oh no! I would keep them. I kept them in my purse. I kept them in my wallet.
It's a turn off for me if they don't have one.
Well, I know that they do.
What I mean?
I know that they do.
They have.
They're just lying that they don't have
one.
But
I'm talking like smart men, and they're not young anymore.
But
they're old enough where they should be more concerned, right? Because in your 30s, like maybe I am trying to get knocked up. I'm super not trying to get knocked up, but like maybe I am. And also just like diseases.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Crazy.
But I had a situation where one guy was like, oh, I don't have it. And I was like, oh, that's okay. I do. And I brought it out and he got mad. He was like, oh, so do you do this a lot? And I was like, oh, really? What? You're going to ask me? I was like, should I not be asking you? Do you do this a lot? I was like, wrap that fucking shit up. We fucked. I got the fuck out. And I was like, peace out.
I wouldn't have fucked him.
Oh, he apologized after.
It's also funny because
he was very, very hot. So I was like,
It was like you wrecked his house of cards, right? Because now he can't pull the thing of like, well, it doesn't feel as good. Also, Dan Savage says, straight men always complain it doesn't feel as good. And then they don't feel it when the condom breaks. So they might be full of shit.
It's 100% full of shit.
Yeah. But but going back to your point where women are taught that it will be their burden if they get pregnant, which it will be, right? So women are taught from, I'm disagreeing with you.
No, so that's why like the word vomit thing is so real because guys, and I always tell women, like, do not listen in the beginning to what they're saying. There are bad people.
Told me that like 2 months ago.
Because guys, you know what they do? Like, and this is very common. They'll sit across a girl and they'll be like, oh my God, your eyes are so beautiful. I hope our kids have eyes like yours.
Yes!
Right?
I'm like, I don't want kids. But yeah, they'll say shit
always
like that.
say shit like
and
that.
And so as a woman, you're like, whoa, he's really into me.
He's thinking about, he's just literally saw your eyes and he was like, oh yeah, if I had kids, like those would be really pretty eyes. Like he's not thinking of the consequences of it. And we're going like, oh my God, he's thinking about marriage and kids with me. He must really be into me.
Yeah.
No.
But here's my question for you. Part of my dilemma is, as a performer, I have no filter. I love it when a man has no filter, but then there's that trap, right? Because it's like adorable to me that he has no filter, but he's not processing what's happening. So I don't know.
But no filter, like I think you and I are people who don't have filter, but that doesn't mean, again, you don't have judgment.
Right. But I feel like that's the trap I get into. Like I meet a man who like seems silly and fun and has no filter and I'm excited. But then it turns out that lack of filter is actually a problem. Yeah, I think you gotta. Man with no filter, but also has a filter. You know what I mean?
We all have a filter. That it's a lie that we're telling ourselves that we are people with no filter. Because the truth is, we conduct ourselves differently in different environments, right? Yeah. Like if you were going to go to a meeting, you're not going to tell some big executive, we have
like some filter,
and that exists. So like, but that's judgment. Yeah, that's critical thinking. Yeah. So like, you want somebody who knows when to say what and where. Yeah. But like the no filter part, I think is like just you want somebody who's fun, who's not like uptight and has opinions. I think sounds like
totally,
but. You want somebody with some judgment.
Yeah. No, for sure. And anyway, we've already wasted too much time on a man who doesn't deserve any time. You know what I mean?
So you do this show called Love Isn't Blind.
Yeah.
Firstly, tell us about it. What is the show and what gave you the idea to even do it?
Yeah. So I'm obsessed with this show. I would do it every night if I could. It's a dating game show where the men can't speak. Although I do want to say for any male listeners, my goal is to make the men look fantastic and for everyone to have a really fun time. And all the men are getting dates from the show. Actually, joke that I had this idea for a feminist dating show and it kind of backfired on me because I also want everyone to enjoy it. So I created this dating show where the men can't speak, but then meanwhile, it's become this like amazing showcase for these men. So the feminist premise has backfired on me a little, but so I call their moms live on stage. I search their phones. There's a yes or no round. And the impetus was kind of twofold. So first of all, I used to create shows and events all the time. And then there was a little pandemic. And then I didn't even notice, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but I didn't even notice how the pandemic sort of slowly wore on me to the point that 2 years later, I hadn't created anything, right? I mean, I created some things. I'm summarizing, but I hadn't created like a new show, a new recurring show, which is what I'd always done. And then I realized that like it felt scary to do so because it had been so long. So all of that is to say that I really wanted to create something kind of rowdy and joyful that would get people connecting. And dating really lends itself to that. Like, I think people are very eager for live experiences and they're eager to meet people in real life. So that lent itself to dating. Separately, I really have an amazing crew of ladies here in LA. Like, I don't know how I got so lucky and I love them. We kind of have a name. It's like we're in high school.
I love it.
Our names all begin with a vowel.
What's your names?
It's the vowels.
Oh.
All of our names begin with a vowel, and then we realized our other friend referred to us as the vowels. And so when we love it and we've leaned in for Hanukkah, I got us all socks with our faces on it. It says the vowels.
Hilarious.
But they're so supportive and they're so lovely. But I told them I wanted to create a dating show. And one of them in particular helped me brainstorm. And, you know, we for better or worse, complain a lot that like, men don't listen. They don't ask questions. They don't ask follow-up questions. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I actually recently read a really funny article written by a man that was like, is dating not working out for you, bro? You're probably the problem. And he says men don't listen and they don't ask questions. Like, did you ask her follow-up questions? Did you really, you know, care about whatever she was saying? But I do think, again, on men's behalf, patriarchy is bad for everyone. Men are taught to brag and show their, you know, what they bring to the table. And so they're not really engaging. So, but anyway, this is something we all talk about a lot. And so I just thought it'd be so fun. Like, what if the men can't speak? And also, again, like there's that study, if you analyze all award-winning films, I forget what the statistic is, but it's like 27% of the lines are actually spoken by women, right? So how fun would it be to have a show where the men don't speak and the only people speaking on stage are the women? Unless the men get eliminated, they can say something on the way out. And then, you know, of course we hear the winner's voice, but yeah, those were the two reasons.
Yeah. And I just went to watch the show and it was so fun and such a great experience. And but it was interesting in what you said about the guys, like not listening a little bit, because even though they were quiet, you have this segment where they can put a paddle up. Mm-hmm. And if she gets to ask them a question, they can only do yes or no. So they can only nod or shake their head. And they can ask the question back by putting up their paddle.
Yes.
And there were so many interesting questions like, did you ever cheat on somebody?
Yeah.
And, you know, the guys have to answer. And then I was like, paddle, put your paddle up. Don't you want to know those things? But like, guys have such lower standards than women do.
I will say on those men's behalf, I like having non-performers.
Yeah.
To some extent. I think it's fun to set up. I mean, I've had performers, but I like that it's like real people looking for something. So I do think they're nervous and they're confused as well. The other thing one of the guys told me is like, yeah, I was confused about the paddles, but I'm not allowed to ask for clarification. Although, like, spoiler behind the scenes, I brief them so they're prepared.
You have to.
But I do think they're like overwhelmed. Like they're raising their paddles, their answer. But yeah, they should.
But we're screaming at them. We're like, paddle.
That's my favorite part, is just to get the audience screaming paddle. But yeah, I mean, if I was one of them, I would just keep the paddle raised the whole time so that she has to answer all the questions.
Yeah.
But they don't. Yeah.
And you have some really funny moments also that happen in it, right? Like in the one we were in, I don't know who asked it, but somebody said, have you peed on somebody during
I asked
sex?
That was me.
And then the guys were like, no. And then we had to go back. You had to ask the girl. And she was like, well, I mean, does it count if it's by mistake?
She was like, her answer was like, just, and because I was like, when? And she was like in the whole, thing of it. It was amazing, actually.
And so I'm curious, like, what are some of the craziest things?
No, okay.
Have you ever been peed on?
I haven't been peed on. And I don't really
No R. Kelly situations going on here?
I don't know. But like if you were like madly in love and a guy was like, I just really want to pee on you, like would you do it?
Absolutely not. Nope. Luis and I love the shit out of him. I tell him like I've talked about it right in the beginning. I'm like, these are my boundaries. Yeah. I do not do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really fair boundary. No, I've never been peed on and I would prefer not to be peed on. But I think it's an interesting predicament if you find out that the love of your life like has these fetishes.
Yeah, I would hope you would ask the love of your life earlier. What Dan
Savage says put your kink cards on the table early.
Yeah, I learned that also because of the 28-year-old, because then he would start telling me stuff later. And it was so funny. It was like, I had a dream that you want to have a threesome.
Oh my God, this man. 28, I don't know. 28's old enough that he should know better.
It was actually but what I thought was funny was that he thought he was smarter than me. So
like you weren't going to realize it's a thing he wanted.
So I was just
That's so manipulative though, to be like, oh, I dreamt that you want this thing.
But then I turned it around on him. One, I was laughing because it was on the phone. I remembered I was like outside a mall in Sherman Oaks Galleria. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, cool. So and he goes, I really think this is something you want. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, okay, cool. So 2 guys. And he goes, what?
You're like, absolutely. I've always wanted to be Eiffel Towered.
And then he literally, his voice dropped. He's like, what? I mean, but then
I love how you keep foiling his plans, and then he like doesn't know what to do.
Then he was like,
I don't have a condom. It's like, you have one.
Listen, I've gone through all the experiences, so I just like know how to.
Oh my God,
fuck. I just love fucking with them now. So then he's like, okay, but then so after like we'll do like 2 girls, and I was like, oh no, you said you care about what I want. I didn't say I give a fuck about what you want. And he was like, he had nothing to say. And he's like, oh, so really? And I was like, yeah, no, I truly don't care what you wanted. I didn't have a dream. You said you had a dream about me.
Oh my God, I love it.
I didn't have a dream I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Wow, you were his education.
Yeah, he learned the hard way. But,
Yeah. Anyway,
so like, what are some of the crazy moments?
Stuff. Yeah. There's been a lot of crazy moments. Well, first of all, my very first show, I asked, have you had sex in the last 48 hours? And 2 of the guys said yes. Which, like, on the one hand, I want to leave space for the fact that, like, maybe they went on a great first date and they got laid. But, like, the fact that 2 men on stage were like, uh-huh. I've also asked, are you on a little bit of mushrooms right now? And 2 guys said yes once. Let's see, what are the crazy things? Oh, in my very first show, this was like kind of adorable. I don't know. I asked, do you believe in your zodiac sign? And it's LA, so 4 of the guys, 3 of the 4 said yes. And I was like, oh God, because come at me. I think astrology is not real. But anyway, again, going back to the twin thing, like we're so different. But then the bachelorette, she brings up a friend with her. She has like a permanent photo friend on stage. And so the friend said, I want to know their zodiac sign. And I said, well, you can only ask them yes or no questions. And she said, can they act them out? And I was like, you know what? Sure. And all the men jumped up and were so into it. I didn't even know what they were doing. One guy did this sort of like claw motion. What would that even be?
What was that? A scorpion? Scorpio?
Oh, it must be. Like, I don't even know.
Oh, no. Isn't there something else that's a crab? I should know. Funny enough, my dad's an actual Indian astrologer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's okay. I don't get offended by anybody saying I don't believe in it. But he is. And I should know these things. But Indian astrology is different from Western astrology.
That feels different. Probably more legit than the women in LA just being like, what's
Indian astrology? Indian astrology explains why 2 twins have very different lives.
Ooh, okay. So people are always like, oh, Pisces, you're all the same. And I was like, I'm born 3 minutes apart. But anyway, yeah, they all acted them out. I don't know. I think the craziest things that happen tend to be with the mom calls. Mm-hmm. There was one time where I called a mom and I said, what are you looking for in a daughter-in-law? And she paused and said, honestly, fertility. The audience screamed. Like, they screamed. There was also a time I called a mom and she was like, here's the thing, behind the scenes, like I call the moms in advance, I prep them, I let them know I'll be calling them, save my number. I can't just call them on the fly. Like people think I'm just calling on the fly, and I love that the audience thinks that, but like they would screen my call. Like why would they would be so confused. But this one woman, like, I don't know if she was on something or she pretended not to know me, but she was like, she had an accent. She was like, what is he doing there? It's a Friday night. And then I realized something on stage. First of all, I realized this is going to be a fucking gift, right? And then I realized that, so I said Shabbat Shalom because I realized that's what she's talking about. And so then she's like, oh, Shabbat Shalom. She tries to set me up with her son on stage. She's like, are you Jewish? Will you date my son? It was insane. It was insane. And then she proceeds to throw him under the bus. I'm like, what should we know about him? And she's like, well, don't get him drunk. One time he got drunk. He went in the shower with all his clothes on and he said, why is my closet so small? Like that was the story. So what's fun about the show is I don't really know what's going to happen either. And most shows have had a couple just like completely bananas moments. And the men get to have a lot of fun too. In a lot of shows, I have them write a haiku about their dream first date. And one guy, his haiku was something like, first you'll meet my dog, then you'll love my dog, then I'll eat your ass. And it was like the audience lost their shit,
I love that.
And there's something about a haiku that's really fun because even these men who aren't performers kind of accidentally do the rule of threes.
Yeah.
So it tends to lend itself well. But yeah, there are so many moments that have just been bonkers.
Yeah, it's super, super fun. And, I am curious, as you have done a few of these shows and met so many of these peoples, what do you think the singles are focused on, especially the women? Because it's like the Bachelorette that then, and these three guys are blindfolded. Yeah. So wait, do they? I can't remember now. Do they see her?
Yeah. They see her. Right. Yeah. For the yes/no round.
Yes. Yeah. And so what do you think the singles tend to focus on when they are kind of in this process?
Yeah. Okay.
Or do they tell you something after the fact?
Yeah. So it's been really interesting. Like some of the Bachelorettes, like there was my favorite show was still December because, and the audience told me it was so fun to watch as well. We learned in the process of the show how much these two people in particular had in common. Like she is a bassoonist and she ended up, revealing that she's secretly a big dork and she loves anime. And then, he's a performer. He also plays some instruments. And then I searched his YouTube watch history for the searching of the phones round. And he had watched all this anime, right? And so there was just like all these things that came out, like really cute things. So it was fun, those stakes, to see that they actually might be a match. She chose him. They went on a couple dates. I was super invested. But then unfortunately, like so many men, he was like, I don't know, things are moving really fast. And I was like, you could just tell her that. You don't have to like ghost. And unfortunately, I think it just kind of, yeah, but she's doing great.
Also, as if like people can't control the pace. Like
I know. Well, I think there is like this weirdly high stakes that they like met on a dating show, but it's like, yeah, you can control the pace. Like you don't have to.
It's not, you're not actually being filmed and said, hey, within 6 weeks you have to get married.
Done. It was the December show and they like hung out on Christmas Day and it was so adorable. And they sent me a photo and I'm like, but
that was probably their own fault. Yeah.
I bet he's the one who suggested Christmas Day. That's always how it goes. It's like the guy that I just had this thing with, right? Like he was the one that was like pushing it forward, inviting me to Cabo and then freaked out. So it's probably a similar thing.
Something you said, and we've talked about off mic is the vocabulary around love, that you think it's limited.
Yeah. I'm probably misquoting something, but I heard that like Eskimos have 100 different words for snow or something like that. And I feel like that's what we need for love. Like I find love so difficult to even talk about because I'm like, oh, well, are we talking about infatuation? Are we talking about lust? Are we talking about, love for your family, love for your friends? I love my friends so much. I don't want to fuck them, but I love them. You know what I mean? So it's like, the idea that we have one word that encompasses all these different shades is actually wild to me.
It is crazy. Yeah. And I think because of how well you put it, because we don't have the vocabulary, we often get trapped in misunderstanding experiences or thinking it's something like we were just saying, love doesn't, like you said, lust stops and then something else has to start.
Yeah.
But it's that idea of like it needs to transform into
Yeah.
something. And people don't know that because they're not taught that.
Right.
Like
we're just taught that love is like this insane infatuation stage. And so then when people are done with that stage, they're like, well, I guess I'm not in love anymore. I don't know, but I just think it's wild that we only have this one word.
yeah, it is very nuts.
Should we create some?
Yeah.
I don't know what they would be. Like,
What would
because
they?
there's so many different kinds of love. I have
are.
yet to experience many of the kinds, I think.
I think I would be curious to find a term for the love I was talking about, which is sometimes I've loved an ex and like just not wanted to be with them, but I still love them.
Yeah.
Like I love them as people objectively.
Yeah.
Like you're a great person.
Yeah.
I just don't want to fuck you anymore. I don't want to spend all my time with you.
Respect and admiration, but I just don't think that even
like because that's
encapsulates
not
it.
even it. It's like it's like you do. I wish them the best.
Yeah.
You know, one of my exes is going to be one of your bachelors potentially.
He is May 5th.
Yeah, he is. Okay, good. Chad, guys, you remember Chad? Chad, we didn't. Do you know Chad was on the podcast?
You told me, and I need to go listen to that episode.
It's a fun episode. My
How long
ex.
did you date for?
Chad, 5.5 months.
Okay.
Just under 6 months.
Yeah, it's a little bit of time.
Yeah. We were.
But
It was a very healthy relationship.
It seems
honestly,
like it, considering we got introduced through Adam, but Chad also was like, "Oh, I need to introduce you to Natasha. We used to date, but you need."
Oh no,
to
Chad
with
said
her."
that.
Sorry. What did I just say?
You said Adam. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Once again, going back to the top, Adam doesn't date women. Chad also, yeah. So clearly, you guys have a really lovely, healthy friendship that has gone beyond.
Yeah. He's one of the, I don't really speak to a ton of exes anymore, but him and there's one other person that's in India. Actually the one that cheated on me, but because we spoke about it many years ago and he apologized and it was like, I was like, all right, cool. And so we're friendly.
Yeah.
I'm not like best friends with anybody,
oh my
but
God, I had a crazy experience yesterday. I went to the rock climbing gym, which I'm obsessed with. And I ran into this guy that I like went on like a couple dates with, but it was like deep pandemic. It was like this weird situation. And I hadn't seen him in like 2 years, but I ran into him. It was really awkward. And then I said to him, I just want to apologize and say that I have always felt bad about how I treated you. Cause I kind of felt like I ghosted. And he said, no, I've always felt bad because I said some dumb, mean things that I said out of jealousy because you weren't that into me. And you said that I did that and then rightfully disappeared. It was really like beautiful, actually.
wow.
Yeah, it was last night. It was really
that
wild.
was last night?
Yeah, it was
oh my
last night.
gosh.
Yeah, I said I've always wanted to say sorry. And he was like, me too. Yeah.
I did that
and then
some years ago.
Yeah. And then we talked about like going climbing and he was like, I gotta be honest, I deleted your number. I was like, that's completely fair.
Yes.
So I texted him this morning. I was like, this is my number in case you want it again. And he was like, it was really great to clear the air. Yeah.
Sometimes like, look, I don't believe in closure. I don't think you're always going to get closure in life. Yeah. It just, and chasing it will honestly give you more pain.
Yes.
But you can try. And if you do, you should do it with no expectation. Yeah. I called up all my exes some years ago when I was in my like, I had just come out of my commitment phobia. And I was like, I don't think I can do that anymore. And I want something better in my life. And I was just like reconciling with my past. And I called up the guys I had dated within like this 5-year period where I just felt like they got the worst of me, you know, a person that just wasn't open, didn't give a fuck. I don't know. Some of them called me heartless and, you know, a fucking bitch and stuff like that. So I called them.
Never warranted, but
yeah. And I called them and apologized. And funny, I think after having time apart, everyody looked at the same situation differently. Yeah. You know, and they were like,
so fascinating.
Oh, you weren't actually as bad as you think you were. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. And then they're like, but, you know, you did have certain expectations and it would have been nice to have like known some of those beforehand. Yeah. And then you realize your vocabulary, because like especially when you're young, you don't know how to say the things that you want.
I think it's bananas that we learn calculus and we don't learn communication. I'm sorry, I've never used sine and cosine in my whole life. And they don't teach us. And now it's like in my 30s, I'm learning like all this stuff that I'm like, that would have been good to know. Like I read Attached and it like blew my mind.
And this is the thing, like,
it's like, oh, I wish I'd known this a decade ago.
But what you said also earlier about men taking some onus and being as emotionally intelligent as women are, and like learning about it, because what we discussed earlier, where you said you didn't know that you should also ask yourself how you feel after a date.
And that maybe is like the most important thing to know after a date. Like, how did I feel?
But it's because we've always made dating about the man.
Yes, and women are trained to be people pleasers, and
it's them choosing us.
Yes,
it's never us choosing them. It's always them choosing us. And I know when I get messages from people going, "Hey, this happened," like listeners, and they'll DM and say, this has happened with this person. What do you think? Yeah. And they'll give me a whole long story and tell me about this other, usually a guy. Yeah. They'll say, the guy treated me like this and he did this and he said he did this in the beginning and then this happened. What do you think? Yeah. And I would all my simplest answer or question back is this how you want to feel? Yeah. In this relationship? Yeah. Yeah. That's the only question you need to ask yourself. If you think this is the behavior you want to experience day in and day out. Yeah.
But I think what's so hard about that is that we glom on to the positive moments. Like, oh, yes, he did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But on Tuesday, he did this, and then we did this, and it was so wonderful. And so we just want it to be all Tuesdays or whatever it was. So, and I don't know, I'm still.
It's sometimes a good thing to write it down, right? Like if you write down, because again, our head our mind focuses on whatever it chooses to focus on. Yeah. But if you just write, not a pro-con list, but if you write a good and bad experience list and you can see that your bad experiences are way outweighing the good, or you can look back and go, okay, well, maybe this bad experience wasn't that big a deal.
Well, my other question is, maybe if the bad list maybe the good list is still longer, but at what point are there too many bads? And I don't know.
And you have to see the gravity of what the good and bad is, right? If it's if the good is he texted me back.
Oh God.
And the bad is he didn't show up to my graduation. Yeah. There's a big difference like in weight of that.
Well, something a friend told me that blew my mind, speaking of writing it down, is he journals. But I journal. I need to journal more. I want to be journal. It's a personal problem. But when I do it by hand, which I'm going to switch based on this story. Lot of caveats. He journals only in Google Docs. So what was so interesting is when he was really going through it with his ex, he did Control F for her name and literally saw the patterns, which I thought was fucking wild.
Wait. Say that again.
So he did Control F for her name. So it pulled up all the instances of her name in the past year in his journal. And he could literally see the patterns of, all these good things. But then, we had this fight and she said this. And it was exactly the same as this. Like the pattern literally appeared, which I thought was so wild. So listeners, you should only journal in Google Docs.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Word. But you need to be able to Control F keywords and see how often they're appearing.
That's it was really so great.
Wild. Yeah. I was like, this should be more well known. But yeah.
Yeah, that actually is I actually
you can see the recurrence of certain words, even the recurrence of like argument or fight or walking on eggshells, you can do whole phrases. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And what do you think about, because this is a question that was also asked in the show that I thought was interesting, and you and I have talked about it separately, but like about exes. Some of the people have.
I asked, are you friends with your exes? What was interesting to me is the audience's reaction. Because some of the guys said yes, some of the guys said no. And when the guy said yes, I think it was one guy said yes. And the audience went, ooh. Like, we have this cultural idea that you're like not allowed to be friends with exes. And if you are, that's wrong and that's unhealthy. And I personally could not disagree more.
Because you are friends with your ex.
Yeah, but one ex in particular has been such a good friend, and he's dating someone. They've been dating for over a year now, and he's just been wonderful. I actually told him kind of recently, I was like, we're friends because you made the effort. Like, he is the one who checks in and is still, because he's still just as excited for me as he was when we were dating.
And who broke up with who?
Well, it was like a very tumultuous, weird situationship that went on for a long, long time. It was a very complicated situation. I don't even know if I could really say who broke up with who. I was the one who finally pulled the plug and was like, we can't talk for 6 months. I will say we didn't talk for 6 months, which I think was a very healthy reset. But like, so he knows I'm obsessed with Dan Savage because we had road trip together and I listened to Dan Savage obsessively. And when I was a guest on the Savage Lovecast, like he was my first friend to buy the Magnum subscription because that's the one that I'm on. He was the first friend to buy the subscription, to listen to. I mean, he has shown me. It's not like I text him and he texts me back 4 days later. Like he is just as responsive and is a really good friend. So I actually think of him and find it like almost personally offensive when people say that you should be friends with your exes.
If he broke up with his new partner, would you guys ever reconsider?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what people worry about, right? Is usually guys tend to actually hold. Like, I feel like guys tend to play the long game more than women do. Yeah. And case studies always show it takes men a lot longer to get over a breakup than women. Yeah. If women break up, we feel the emotions right away. And then we're like, fuck you, we're done. Yeah. And then we're completely fine. You want to be friends? Okay, cool. Yeah, we can be friends. Yeah. And guys don't feel anything in the beginning and then feel all the remorse later in their life. And so they tend to play a long game.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of men feeling very remorseful.
Except, but like they then play that long game and they're always trying to.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think we would, but I also like truly feel like platonic love for him right now. You know, like again, going back to the Eskimos, we don't have a word for it, and like, I have to say I haven't met his girlfriend yet. But I am prepared to meet her. You know what I mean? And I would like to meet her. I am. But here's the other thing that's amazing. Is he and I think, have such a solid base that I think I could actually even say to him, I feel really uncomfortable. I don't know why. I need to sit with, like, I could even tell him, like, and actually when we talk, he will check with me before he shares things about his girlfriend or after but he's very good about being like, is that too much? Like he always checks in. So I actually feel like I could even say like, I'm feeling jealousy. It's not rational. Or I'm feeling sad for myself that you have found someone and I haven't. Like, I feel like I could actually voice that to him. And I feel like often people can't be friends because they can't say that. So they act out in other ways, right? So they don't want to admit that they feel jealous or that they're sad for themselves or whatever. And so they, try to take the high road or actually again.
But then I guess the part of the question is like, if you were to feel jealous or you were to feel sad, like, should you be passing that on to the ex? Like, should you be mentioning?
Well,
I guess like I've had that happen, like of people, exes wanting to be friends or then they see something and then they're like, oh, that doesn't make me happy to see you kind of happy. And you're like, well, so what do you want me to do?
Actually, I want him to be happy. And again, he's been such a good friend. It's so funny. Like I'll fully send him this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think me telling him if I were to, like, honestly, I think the thing I'll feel most is just sadness for me that I don't have that. But I think by telling him that doesn't necessarily put the burden on him. I think it's my burden, but I think it would make it very open and honest as opposed to me like, and I think you're the one who said this in one of your podcasts. I'm quoting you at you, but something about like, yes, it was you. Fuck. Hold on. It was something about like, oh, you were saying how someone broke up with you. And so to get back at him, you went and like this other guy and you like realized in the car, like, oh yeah, he's not going to know. This isn't going to do anything. Right. So I think by like acknowledging that I feel that way and acknowledging that to him, we can all kind of move forward without me trying to lash out in some way. Right. That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, and look, I don't think that there's a formula to any of it. I think everybody just has to do what they feel comfortable doing. Some people and both parties can agree that we don't feel comfortable involving our exes. Okay, cool. That's also completely fair.
It completely depends how it ended and,
But it might not even. Look, if two people, it's their decision, right? If you're a couple and you both decide and nobody's pressuring the other, you both equally decide, I want this or don't want this, great. Yeah. Your life, do you. Yeah. My boyfriend and I, our thing is like we're friendly with our exes, but a couple of them. Yeah. But like we don't want to like go out for dinner with each other.
I mean, look, he lives in another city, which keeps that really easy as well. But we do catch up a lot.
But like your show was going to be a potential thing where I was like, hey, Chad might go to the show. I just found out that he might be there. So like, are you going to be okay with that? Yeah. And luckily my boyfriend's very secure. I actually was like, I wonder what I would have been like in that situation. Cause I don't think I'm as friendly as my boyfriend is. Yeah. But he was like, oh yeah, it's totally fine. I mean, if you wanted, I could even meet him. And I was like,
I mean, that's great. But that's the thing.
I was like, but again, don't think that I'll do that for you.
Yeah, but that's the thing about this ex. His girlfriend is probably pretty cool because she knows about me. Yeah. And he said to her early on, like this, apparently he like showed her my TikToks and was like, this friendship is important to me and I would like to keep it. Something like that. He like told me this. And so he told me, he's like, she watched your TikToks and she thinks that you're funny. And I was like, great. So she's probably pretty cool. But your partner, it's Luis, right?
Yeah.
He should feel secure.
I don't tell his name on the podcast, so thanks for calling him fully out. No, it's okay. We're gonna bleep that out, Adam.
But so your partner, he should feel secure, right? I'm in your home right now, right? Mm-hmm. You have like a beautiful home together, a secure partnership. Like, I think if people feel really threatened by someone's ex, I think that is perhaps a sign that you know deep down that your partner hasn't worked through things with that ex, or you feel insecure about the relationship, maybe for other reasons. Like, I think that can be a sign to look at, why do I feel this way? And why do I feel insecure? I don't know. Then there's a whole other thing about like people doing polyamorous. I don't know how they do it. Although I also think a lot of ethically non-monogamous guys, it's just like rebranding boys. Like they're like, I'm ethically non-monogamous. Like, no, you're just a boy. It was just lots of people.
We've had both, as in we've had people on the podcast who are experts in that, who believe that's like a big myth and whatever. But I do think that there's a great, fun new lot
Sign on
of
my
people.
Hinge. Yeah. There's a lot. I love it too. These men that are like, I'm ethically non-monogamous. I'm like, you can't even find the first girlfriend, bro. I think non-monogamy, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it should be something that you choose with a partner. You come together, you choose what you want your relationship model to be. But it's interesting when men are like, I'm ethically non-monogamous. I don't have any girlfriends right now, but I am ethically non-monogamous. Like this, I don't believe it's like straight or gay. Like it's
like, I already know in advance that I'm not only going to love you, I will love multiple people.
Yes.
And it's like saying it in advance when it's like, you don't really know that.
Yeah. Saying it in advance, I think is odd. Like, how do you even know what kind of life you want to build with a person that you haven't met yet?
Yeah. Yeah. But it is good that they are adding that more openly onto apps.
It's great. I can swipe left, you know?
Yeah, because that's what happened with me a couple times. Right before I met my boyfriend, I went on a date and it was a really good date. But partway through, he said that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, totally cool. I'm just not into that.
But like, why didn't you tell me before I got here?
So then I changed my app and I said, cool if you are, I'm not into sharing. Yeah. And I was like, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is like a preference for everybody. So what are some of as we wrap this episode out, when I learned to speak, what are some of the things what else do you kind of hear people say to you?
There are really interesting, it's been helpful because, and I do feel bad that we've done like a little bit of male bashing on this episode. I stand by it all, but still, women and men, it's interesting because what we were saying, you do have to be attracted to the person, right? But I've had women be like, I really like blue eyes. And I'm in their application to be on Love Isn't Blind. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck that you like blue eyes. There's no way I'm searching for men now that have blue eyes. Like, how shallow and trivial and frankly, probably racist, right? Like there's only some races with blue eyes. But it's just like, really? That's what you're saying in your search for a partner? A lot of ladies, this is a stereotype, but everyone's heard this, but it's very true. They have crazy height requirements. It's so silly. Like, I'm 5'4". I don't need a man who's like, he has to be 5'10" and up. Like, are you kidding me?
Okay, also, that has been me. admit that has. I have dated shorter than that.
Right.
But my preference, I would say that. I always say my preference is that.
If you had
but it's not like a deal breaker.
A minute video to share what you're looking for in a partner.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Right? But men too. I had this one man be like, I really like skinny women, like not emaciated, but really thin. And I was like, oh, gross. Also, I had to interrupt him and be like, what about her personality? You know, I mean, it's like, but yeah, you have to be attracted to the person. But
what do you think is that fine line between what is a preference and like a non-negotiable when it comes to looks?
Yeah. Well, I think unfortunately, it's a little bit like that definition of porn from the Supreme Court or something. Like, you know it when you see it. I do think you have to be open to meeting all types. And then seeing if you have that chemistry. You know, I do think it's fair to say fitness is a part of my life. I want other people who are fit. I think that's more than just an appearance. It's a whole lifestyle. But I do think people need to be a bit more open. I think once you meet the person, if you're like, I'm not attracted, then you're not attracted. But I do think people need to be more open-minded. And I think people need to take a look at their own cultural conditioning. I had one woman tell me that she doesn't date Asian men, which for me eliminated her, because it's one thing if you say, oh, I don't like that Asian man over there, right? But there are so many hot Asian men. Like, are you really good? And there's an entire cultural discourse right now over the fact that we've desexualized Asian men. So if you can sit there and tell me you don't date Asian men, where have you been? That you haven't heard about this discourse and you haven't looked at your own cultural conditioning and expectations, that you're not reevaluating that. And yes, you have to be attracted to the person. But if you're going to tell me that you don't date a whole race, that's on you. That is racist. You know what I mean? So it's been really interesting. Oh, something else I really want to talk about.
Tell me.
Is the number of men over 40 who tell me I don't date women over 35 because I still want biological children. And I've started to say to them, that's fine, but know that you are exercising your male privilege. And they always look shocked. And I'm like, you are not a feminist. Privilege, the definition of privilege is that you have more options, flexibility, opportunity provided to you because of the body you were born into. So if you're going to sit here and tell me you don't date women over 35 because you still want biological children, I want you to know that you're exercising your privilege. You are exercising male privilege and you are not a feminist. And I'm not even saying you have to date older. You're telling me you won't date your same age, then that means that you are you're taking advantage of the fact that it's male privilege. That's what it is.
You are a piece of shit. Would you want me to say it?
No, but here's the thing. So many men do this.
Oh, and I know that they do.
It's really upsetting because it's like guys that seem nice and they say it like it's so normal. They're like, oh, you would do the same.
I will tell everybody, and I call guys out for this behavior all the time. It is not because they want a biological child. That is not the reason.
I think for some of them it is. And I think
I am
that's
telling
male
you,
privilege.
it is because they don't want a child right now. And older men always date a younger woman.
Yeah.
I know this as having dated multiple guys who were 10 years older than me when I was like 20.
Yeah.
It was because you buy them time.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
It's not that you can have a biological kid with a 40-year-old.
Yes, absolutely. 35
it
has
has
become
nothing
this, like, mythical number.
Listen, you can have a biological kid with any woman before she has menopause. Period.
Yeah.
It is a possibility.
Yeah. Well,
you
and
can
a lot of women
also
are freezing their eggs.
You
too.
can also not have a biological child with a 25-year-old who seems perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
Because that's just how nature is now, right? Like you can be 25 and be infertile, and you can be 40 and pop out 3 kids.
Yes.
It is not about that. It is about time.
Yeah.
Because a 20, 21, 25-year-old doesn't want to have kids in the next 5 years, most likely in LA.
Yeah.
And probably generally, nowadays the women are having kids much later in life. Yeah. So they're going to face this problem anyway at some point. Yeah. It's that they want to buy themselves the time.
Yeah.
So I refuse to accept that bullshit excuse that they're like, I want to have my own biological kid. I'm like, bitch, it is so easy to have your own biological kid nowadays.
But going back to everything we've discussed, they're not thinking about it. I'm aware that you can have kids past 35 because I'm taking my friends to their egg freezing appointments, right? the men aren't fucking thinking about it. But I actually think it's nice because I'm realizing that men who date their age or older tend to be better, more feminist men. Mm-hmm. So frankly, if they cut themselves out of the pool, that's fine by me. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if women don't have the option and you're a man exercising your option, that's male privilege. And I say that as someone who is like, I've broken up with men because, or not broken up. I've been on dates with guys who are like, I 100% want kids. And I've been like, I am not the woman for you. You know what I mean? And we don't go on a second date because I'm like pretty sure I say I'm 95% sure I don't want them. And I kind of joke it's the same way I say I'm agnostic instead of atheist. Like, I probably don't, but like maybe, I don't know, or life is long. Like maybe I'll like foster a kid when I'm 50. Actually kind of have a dream that I like foster a gay kid who gets kicked out of his home and then he like shows up with Auntie Allie. You know what I mean? I have like an annual drag show in my house. Like,
I love it. I love that you're imagining the entire thing.
But yeah, but a lot of men tell me I don't date 35 because I still want biological children. And I just wish that the discourse was, cool, that's male privilege.
100%. Yeah. I agree. I mean, in the last episode or in the Danny Zucker episode that we had, I talked about how I didn't necessarily, I just don't know if I want kids. And the likelihood is probably not, right? Yeah. Mostly because we're both so indifferent to it. And then I talked about surrogacy. And this has happened to me multiple times where I have posted about like, you know, funny clips. I think I had one where I was walking in like a hot cat suit. And I said, when you don't want to have kids and get married, but are going to live a fulfilled life anyway. And it was to the NSYNC song, It's Gonna Be Me. Yeah. And so I did that, posted on Instagram, great. Posted on TikTok. Every dude, women were like, yes, yes, yes. If you look at the comments of that video, it went viral a little bit. And all these dudes just going, oh yeah, you think somebody's going to want to be with you when you're 60? Yeah, let's have this conversation when you're old and alone and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, like it's always men.
And the type of man who would go and leave a comment on a stranger's video like that is like, cool, I don't want to date you.
So many, like the ones who left comments on the Danny Zucker video that I posted, are follower fans of mine who DM me all the time going like, oh my God, I would love to take you out on a date. Here's my number, marry me, blah, blah, blah. And they're the same people who said, oh, this is why no man respects her. Oh and I just laughed because it doesn't even bother me because I just like, I know who I am. Yeah. But I was just thought it was so ridiculous. Yeah. And also this idea that it's always a man who gets upset.
Absurd.
I'm like, listen, why are you upset? Are you upset that I'm not marrying you? Yeah. I don't want to have your kids? This is not about you, sir. Yeah. You had no chance anyway. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with you. This is me and my personal choice.
It is an affront to their masculinity.
And women don't get upset at all, but it's always stranger men. Yeah. And I'm like, men internalize 10 times more than women do. Yeah. In my opinion, they're just way bigger pussies than women are when it comes to looking at something and getting mad triggered by it. Because I make a lot of like comedic jokes on things and they get triggered. Oh my God.
I posted the dumbest joke about like, how is Bumble the feminist dating app? Like, what's feminist about women doing all of the work? And it's a stupid joke. And the men are going nuts like, oh yeah, because writing hi is so much work. And I'm like, I can't, I mean, angry man. Yeah. I also posted something recently about how like, if I ever do have a kid, I want him to be gay and how I haven't picked out my son's name. I picked out his drag name. And there were all these people being like, you're a pedophile. Oh man, you're a pedophile. Like, yeah, when the time comes, it's a straight man you're going to be hiding behind. And I'm commenting like, something tells me I'd run from you, not hide behind you. But like, yeah. And it's just like these dudes that I don't know where they are, but I just have to imagine they're like alone in their basements. I don't know.
But guys, like,
it's never women leaving nasty comments.
Yeah, I'm sure a couple male listeners who get triggered by this conversation because they have behaved this way will write something back to me about this. This is not us trying to shit on the good guys, because the good guys are great guys.
And they're not,
and they're amazing guys. And there were some amazing guys who were guests on your show that I was like, why did we pass up on them? They're such great guys.
I did like at the end when she was like, I would go on a date with any of these people. Like, they were good guys at the last show.
There were some good guys. Yeah. I was very surprised at her pick. Was like,
Yeah, although
Fun
I have to say that
personality.
I love him.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Fun personality to me. But I was like, of all the potentials.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, there were like real potentials there.
Yeah.
So this is not a knock on all those, and I hope that when guys listen to this, you try to not behave this way to women.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, there are way too many conversations happening right now about females and our bodies, and we don't have to justify it to anybody.
Yeah.
Whatever our life choices are, and if that doesn't vibe with you, don't date us.
Yeah.
It's totally cool.
Yeah.
Somebody else will.
Yeah.
It's just we're not a fit.
Yeah, and I'm fine
and
with
that's
that.
completely cool.
Also, shout out to the amazing feminist men. I have a really good friend who got a vasectomy when we were like 25. And it blew my mind because I was like, how the f do you know that you don't want kids? We're 25. You could change your mind, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I have never wanted them. I will never want them. And I've seen women freak out like, I haven't got my period yet. And he's like, why would I do that to anyone? He's just like, if I know I never want them, why would I do this to other people? And he got a vasectomy at 25. And fast forward 15 years later. Recently, I was like, you got a vasectomy 15 years ago? And he was like, yeah. I mean, it's wild, but
that's
like,
awesome.
There are plenty of great men out
Chad
there.
is also a great one where he's always talked about when we were dating about taking. He was like, if there's a men's birth control, I would take it.
Yeah. Oh, well, there is, but the men complained that it made them uncomfortable and they were like bloated or sore.
No, but I think like it's not like readily available.
Yeah, well, they did a test.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and
the
men
test
complained about the side effects.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I will say there's like so many great men out there, and unfortunately, it's like they're not. I guess the sad truth is it's not as interesting to talk about the great men. You know what I mean? But
listen, I can do an entire podcast on my boyfriend and how amazing he is, and his friends who are really lovely guys. And so I know that there are a lot of really good guys out there, but at least the ones that are on TikTok and Instagram who want to, put women down. I'm like, my joke back is always like, keep commenting. It's great for my algorithm.
Oh, yeah. I write that too. And then also sometimes I write, I hope that made you feel like a big, strong man.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what else can you say? Like, what else can you say?
Yeah.
It clearly has something to do with you and nothing to do with what the woman is saying.
Yeah.
Because you're just not listening to what's being said. So
a man not listening to what a woman say?
No way.
Speaking of good men, a shout out to my other ex that I'm friends with. He's delightful. He lives on the east side. We hang out. We go climbing. He's dating someone and I do not care.
Love it. I love it, Allison.
Oh, he's been helping me. He found me out. He's like finding me bachelors and stuff.
This is great.
I'd put him on the show if he wasn't dating someone.
So what is the final consensus? Is love blind?
No, it's not blind. You know what else we didn't even get into because there's too much to talk about? The idea of it being blind, I think blinds people to the abusiveness, the flaws, all that kind of thing. Like, I think it's best if it's not blind.
Nothing in life should be blind.
Yeah, you should be attracted to them. They should be a hottie in your eyes, and you should not be blind to red flags.
Yes, because you need to use your judgment.
Yeah, and process your emotions. Yes.
Allison, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
I talked to you all day about this.
I know. Yeah. But we
gotta go. We gotta go.
We have to wrap this one out, but you're welcome back anytime you want.
Thank you.
Definitely when you do another show, let us know.
Cool.
We'd love to come out.
Oh, April 29th. I don't know when this episode is coming out, but April 29th, I'm doing actually something that warmed my cold, dead heart is the number of bachelors who are like, I had the best time ever. Can I come back? And I'm like, well, it might be weird to have like a bunch of new guys and one repeat, but I'm doing my first Second Chances show, and it's all bachelors who have done it before and are like super ready for shenanigans. I think I'm going to try some new games.
I think with them, you should try new games.
Yeah, I'm excited. And there's going to be a new bachelorette. And then May 5th, I have the quote unquote normal show, and I think Chad is going to be a contestant.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, Allison, before we get into that, you're not completely done because we have something called 6 questions. So we ask every guest the exact same 6 questions, kind of like our version of rapid fire. So don't overthink the answers too much.
Okay.
Allison Goldberg, you ready for your 6 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. What is the first thing you notice about a potential partner?
Ooh. When I meet them in real life or when I swipe on their profile?
However you interpret
I
it.
love hands.
Love hands. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a unique one.
Yeah.
No.
Terrible?
No, there's no right or
Just
wrong.
talking about looks. What it was, the first thing I noticed?
Yeah.
Love hands.
What is one?
And hairlines. I notice hairlines. Okay, go on. Yep.
Fair. What is one deal breaker?
Oh, God. One deal breaker. Oh, there's so... The problem with deal breakers is I feel like they're often insidious. A man who's not a hustler. I like a man who like is really passionate about something. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't have to understand it, but I want a man who's really passionate about what he does. It's hard for me to be with someone who's not passionate about something. Yeah.
That's a good one. What turns you on?
Hands. Yeah.
All right. What are one of yours?
Emotional intelligence and men being kind and men having no filter, but also processing their emotions and not just blurting out what they're thinking in the moment. That turns me on. Yeah.
Okay.
Men who are silly.
You can
silly
only pick
yet
one
sexy.
thing, but it's fine.
It's a trend. I don't shut the fuck up. Okay.
What are one of your strengths and one of your weaknesses in relationships? One
of my strengths is that I feel like I am getting a lot better at communicating my needs. Like if a text a day keeps the anxiety away, like for a new thing. And my weakness, well, clearly I keep choosing the wrong men. I still have to figure that out. Yeah.
Working on it. It's a work in progress.
Trying, yeah.
What is love?
It is snow.
It's all the different things. Guys, to make sense of that one, you're going to have to go back and listen to this episode because that's what you're referring to.
Yes, absolutely. I hate the cold.
The Eskimos.
I hate the cold. I am in love with California. I'm an ex-East Coaster. I think California is the promised land. They've been lying to my people about Israel. It's California.
Besides I love you, what 3 words would you want your partner to tell you?
You are hilarious.
Well, Allison, you are hilarious.
Thank you.
So how can everyone find you and the show?
So AlisonGoldberg.com will link out to all my different projects and any new projects I create. And then on social media, I'm at Allie_Goldie, ALLI_GOLDI on all platforms.
And guys, make sure you follow her. Definitely go out to one of these shows. They're so fun. Apply if you are a bachelorette or a bachelor.
Oh, please
go
apply.
Please have fun. Also, after the show is done, it's like becomes like a little mixer. So people who are single get a little wristband and they can meet each other. And the people who are couples who go, you get a different color wristband and you got to be the wingman.
And there's a role for the couples too. Yeah,
it's really fun. So definitely go check that out. And all of the links will be in the show notes of this episode. So please make sure you follow Allison and follow us. We're also on social media. We're at Kinda Dating across the board. I'm at Natasha Chandel on Instagram and Facebook and Natasha.Chandel on TikTok. Thank you so much for downloading this episode. If you like something you heard, screenshot the episode and tag us on social media. Finally, I know it seems tough out there, but just try. Till next time. I hope you guys enjoyed that video and check out our next one. Thank you so much for watching and please subscribe to this channel for more amazing dating, love, and relationship advice from me and so many expert guests. Follow us on socials. We're at Kinda Dating across the board. I'm Natasha Chandel, so you can find me too if you like. And join our newsletter on www.kindadating.com for lots of exclusives. See you soon.